I put forth my best effort, essentially gutted my own bill, removed protections for some of the people in our state, some of my personal friends, to make sure that they could have access to housing. I think I did my part. So my request to you, committee members, is to let's continue this discussion. And I know there's going to be a lot of debate and people coming to the table on this bill, but my request is to let me continue this discussion and move this on to the next step of the process. And I'm committed to continuing to work with the stakeholders.
We went to listen to some of the members of Vote last week, I believe. And one of the ladies, I see her in the audience right now, made a comment that she's not the same person that she was when she went in. She's a totally different person. And you can't expect growth or expect those kinds of statements made from the formerly incarcerated if you constantly are taking away chances and opportunities for them to be a totally different person. It's easy to revert back to your old self when your new self isn't even given the opportunity to do better, to add a better chance at life, at a better chance and opportunity to be a productive citizen in this great state of Louisiana. And so with my soliloquy, I'm going to move to pass this favorably. Hopefully, next session, we are voting on the original House Bill 665 to move out of this body. We can't expect more from our citizens if we are not willing to give them more.
So what's missing here, what we pulled out is any reasonable lookbacks. So, right, the Fair Housing Act says that you have to consider how long it's been since the conviction has happened and whether the severity of the offense. And so we tried to put some guardrails in here initially that said, for something like a nonviolent felony. So as an example, one of the folks who couldn't be here today has a nonviolent felony from 6 years ago on her record for writing bad checks. And so we said after 3 years, something like that shouldn't have to be considered. The Apartment Association of the Realtors objected to that and said that they didn't like that number. And so we asked them to come up with a new one. How many years do you want to be able to consider a charge like writing bad checks? And they came back to us and they said, we don't have a number for you. We always want to be able to consider that. Doesn't matter if it happened yesterday or 50 years from now. We always want to be able to consider that, and we always want to be able to deny someone for that charge.
Okay,
so that's all out.
But we removed that, Presley.
That was removed.
All of that's removed.
Okay.
So the only thing that is not considerable is paragraph C here. It's arrests, and that falls under the Fair Housing Act guidance. Expunged convictions, records that have been sealed, or juvenile adjudications, those are all should not be available to a landlord or an employer.
And that's juvenile adjudications when they're charged as a juvenile, not if they are
correct
to an adult offense.
If they're charged as an adult, then that's separate. Then that can be considered. And then vacated convictions, right? The vacated and nullified convictions, these are when people are exonerated or when they get new trials, and right. If they haven't been found, if their conviction has been overturned, there's no good reason why we should be considering that conviction. And then the last category is pardoned convictions.
What we have now with around the country, or a lot of apartment scenarios, people trying to rent, is literally just an apartheid state. Like, if we have a set of rules that bar people who have the money, who have a job, that are trying to give you the money and pay for something, and someone saying, I don't want your money, take it somewhere else. Now, if we can't have a place to stay for folks like us that have the money, have the job, well, how are we ever going to help people who are struggling to get a job, to get money, if those of us that are trying to be successful still have nowhere to live in this society?
351-186, that's my prison number. And only reason why I tell you that is because looking at me, you wouldn't know that. But actually, today is the day that I was paroled 4 years ago from Allen Correctional Facility. And I had this idea when I came home, because they said, go to this resource, go to that resource, talk to these people, and they'll help you. And that's what I imagined I imagined that it would be easy. And when I came home, it was anything but that. It was the most frustrating thing I had ever experienced, because they say, go to this place, go to that place, and they'll help you, and this is what'll happen, and things will be okay. And it wasn't. I refused to give up. That's why I'm here today. I'm here today on the day I was paroled out of the correctional facility. And the day I got out was the day I put my feet on the ground, and I was determined to turn this frustration, this frustration that I have, for many more people that's going to come behind me. And believe it's a lot of people like me that's coming home. Men and women, they're coming home. And they want to be a part of what we say we're supposed to have. They want to be a part of it, but we're not given the opportunity. And the only thing I'm asking for is opportunity.
I was thinking, I said, what am I supposed to do? I have been rewarded my freedom. I'm back into society. But now, I'm still paying a debt. Because if I can't function as a law-abiding citizen, which is easy, but function as a human with my human rights to live comfortably.
Coming home from incarceration, I also attended the University of New Orleans, and I also attended Tulane for graduate school. And so folks like to have a negative stigma when it comes to formerly incarcerated individuals and our contributions to society. And I understand, Louisiana and our property rights, but however, the 14th Amendment does allow everybody due process of the law.
This doesn't only affect currently formerly incarcerated people, it affects their children. Because if I'm being placed in a position where I cannot provide for my children coming home, then where does that leave the child? And we're always looking at these issues that are reoccurring, but we're only scratching the surface. We're not getting to the root and the core of these issues. Because you're putting me in a position where, okay, I messed up in life. Nobody's perfect. I know I'm not. But after I've been arrested, corrected, and rehabilitated, what does that look like? What does the success rate really looks like for currently and formerly incarcerated people coming home? Or is the system really designed and set up for me to fail? We're not asking anybody to give us anything, just a fair opportunity and a chance to survive out here and stand on our own 2 feet.
I am a formerly incarcerated individual. I have worked organizing around housing for maybe about 9 years now. I was released in 2011, April 11 actually, so I just reached my 11th year. I still have 6 years remaining on parole. In 1994, I was 16 years old. I was arrested, tried, and convicted for 2 counts of first-degree murder, armed robbery, and feticide. Feticide is the killing of an unborn child. I was sentenced to 2 life terms, consecutive, without the possibility of probation, parole, nor suspension of sentence. And actually, it's a blessing to be sitting here having this conversation with you all today. May I add that I did not commit those crimes. So I sit here today as a free man, physically. Psychologically, I'm still kind of entrapped because I now see that the Constitution was not written for me, per se. To this day, 11 years, and I still cannot obtain housing. I have been denied numerously from private apartment complexes, private owners. It always was, oh, your credit is not good. Oh, you don't have rental history. A lot of these different things, but be mindful. I went to prison at 16. I come home at 34. Today, my credit is over 700, so that shouldn't be my access of denial. Rental history probably could, but so I stand here today as this far away from being homeless because I am being denied after paying numerous application fees, not getting any type of recall or information back stating why I have been denied in these housing. I've been working, like I say, for 10 years, so the income is there. But it only proves that Louisiana practices blanket policies when it comes to formerly incarcerated people.
One day, you're going to look at it and say, you know what? What if it's my child? You know, we see now, you know, you got people of color, but I see a lot of whites in prison too. And I wonder, how do we really treat people? We just celebrated the Easter holidays. I don't know how many of you now that's sitting up there right now believe in God, believe in Christ, even if you celebrated Easter. But I believe that he died for someone like me, because with my sins, I had some sins in my life. But now I go to church. I run the prison ministry. I try to help people. But I'm going to urge you to look into your heart, look into your soul. And if you celebrated the death, burial, and resurrection of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ yesterday, how you going to act today? Thank you.
With Representative Willard, we sat down with the stakeholders, with other people who were involved in this. We went through extensive negotiations trying to, we kind of started with the solution that we wanted. We made it clear that we were willing to move very far to try to meet them where they were. So we've, I think, done what my understanding is the legislature is supposed to do, right? You have constituents, you identify a problem, you come up with a solution, you sit down with stakeholders and try to find a solution that works as much as it can for everybody. It's rare that everybody's happy with everything, in this kind of thing. But I think we've done everything that we were supposed to do, and I think we've done it all in good faith through hard work. And so I would ask just that you, at the very least, in this committee, recognize that effort and recognize that we did what this body was, from my understanding, what government essentially is set up to do. And recognize that hard work, recognize that attempt to compromise and find a solution that works for everybody, and do exactly what we're supposed to be doing here. Thank you very much.
My name is Tammy Esponge. I'm the association executive for the Apartment Association of Louisiana. We represent about 730 members, consisting of about 128,000 rental units throughout the state. The Apartment Association, one of the main things we do is educate our members, in providing that education to our members as it relates to federal, state, local, fair housing laws, anything of that nature, and educating them and guiding them to make sure that they are doing the correct thing. In 2016, HUD came out with new guidance as it relates to criminal background checks. Our attorney and myself traveled the entire state, educating our members on how to implement that new guidance as it related to looking back on the criminal records and implementing those. And as far as I know, most of our members, or all of our members, adhere to that guidance that was provided to them by HUD.
I'll be very honest with you. Every time I've seen the Apartment Association here, it's always been something that, in my opinion, this is me saying this, that has not necessarily been in favor of the consumer. And even when I will tell you, frankly, I mean, when banks and lenders were giving forbearance to landlords, and you guys were basically here trying to squeeze renters, I will tell you, this just seems like, and I know it's not every time, but it's lots of times that you guys are just against the people who put money in your pockets, and that just and I'm not, look, I'm not doing this for some type of, so that bothers me personally, because I look at these people and Mr. Francis, I guess it was, I was so struck by his conversation. This man did 42 years in prison, and I guess, when is a debt repaid? When is enough? And I heard the other gentleman who said he had to get someone else to do an application for him. And I'm sure that's not an isolated incident. I'm not trying to paint that as being a general incident either. So let me be fair where I can. But it seems that Representative Willett is a very reasonable representative. I would think that you guys could work this out, and I would hope that you could, because I'm sure you guys are great people. I'm sure they're great people at the apartment association. But every time I see you guys, it's almost, in the last 4 years anyway, it's been in situations like this that, in my opinion, don't paint you in the best light.
I think the issue isn't with the applicants. I think the issue is probably with the Department of Corrections and how we view when a person has truly served their time. Because we seem to be in the business here at the legislature of reinforcing that scarlet letter, that you go through serving your time, you do parole, whatever the case might be, but that mark is going to follow you around forever. And I just hope that at some point we as a body can trust the process enough to know that if public safety, Department of Corrections, has said that this person is safe enough to be released because they've done their time, that we as a society, whether it's apartment association or whoever it might be, can say, all right, we're not going to put additional barriers up for this person to be able to get back on their feet, because you all can't answer the question where they would stay if they can't stay in one of your clients' apartments. But they're going to stay somewhere, all right? And we as a society are going to have to pay that cost if we continue to add additional burdens.
It sounded like they couldn't commit that they had worked in good faith. And I'm under the impression that did not get stated because it's not true. We had one meeting. During that first meeting, we went through all of their concerns. I asked for language that they may be able to be amenable to. They said they didn't have it, and they were currently just opposed to the bill. So I said, okay, can we have a second meeting to go through that, and you draft some language that you would be comfortable with? During that second meeting, they didn't present anything. Again, we went through their concerns, and I took it upon myself to drop this substitute bill to address their concerns to the best of my ability. Took it upon myself to do that. So I believe that there was no good faith put forward to work toward a compromise solution.
I'm going to move that we defer this bill until next Monday, and voluntarily defer this bill until next Monday. I'm not sure the date, the 25th. And I'm going to ask that all parties involved, we're going to get together, we're going to meet, we're going to go through these concerns that have been outlined by the opposition and see if we can come to some type of resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Thank you, guys.